Now, all right, we are live. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Peter, Pond of the show. Okay, and I'm here with Chris Andre. We are gonna bring you some pre-World Cup chatter. Before we get into it, this is our first episode. I've never met Chris before. Okay, he is someone that I met through the internet. I think during last World Cup in 2014. Yeah.
Well, he says this, but I swear, when I've looked outside my bedroom window late at night, I can see your silhouette sometimes. I'm a little bit worried, but
Slim Reaper. They call me the Slim Reaper. Anyway, so yeah, I've never met Chris in person before. We kind of just found each other on the internet as both two battered Greek soccer fans or footy fans. I'm from America. He's from the UK. We're both Greek though, and we kind of just have this what do they call when you need to go to alcoholic 101, like a support. We have like a support group of like battered Greek soccer fans or footy fans that we kind of just bitch and moan about how our team underperforms all the time. But like we've also had some good rides as well. Euro 2012, World Cup 2014 was mayhem, bedlam, man, as you can remember. But
since then it's been about trying to not self-harm.
exactly, dude. It's I've been ready to run into oncoming traffic a couple times. So anyways, I think that's it for the intros. We can get right into it unless you have anything else to say, man.
No, I mean, no. I'm depressed, Pete, to be honest with you. I'm depressed.
Okay, go on.
Well, I mean, listen, there's this Greek song, right? If there are any Greek listeners out there, they don't know what I'm talking about. There's this Greek singer called Antonis Remos. He sings this song, Espase y Nichta, the night broke.
Yeah.
This dude, right, he used to date this chick and he was over her, he thought, and he's walking down the street one day and he sees her and all these emotions come flooding back and it's like the night broke in two, the world came crumbling down around him. I finally relate to that song because I thought I was not okay, but I thought I'd accepted the fact that Greece didn't qualify, right?
Yeah.
Now all this build-up's coming up. Dude, I'm feeling what he's feeling. I'm relating. I can't handle it. I cannot handle it. And on top of that, the laptop's microphone's broken. So I've got this microphone, which looks like one of those sex toys, those wands. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So I'm just feeling very depressed, Pete. You're going to have to cheer me up today.
Yeah, I had that feeling of the night breaking and, the whole emotions and whatnot. Then I logged off of Pornhub. So I'm back on here now with you. So... But anyways, let's get right into it. I'm excited, man. Despite Greece not being in it, I'm going to enjoy the World Cup. I will say, with Greece in it, the World Cup is awesome and you'll have those good moments. But when you don't have a team that's like guaranteed to win the groups, it really, every game, every minute is just open heart surgery for me. And it's all honestly, in a way, like Euro 2016, Greece weren't in it as well. So like I kind of felt the same way. I could just enjoy the matches and whatnot without having to like scream in public at people and like make a fool of myself. So it's fine.
I kind of like that.
Pressure. Yeah, no, I miss it. It's been 4 years now, basically, so I miss it. But anyways, we'll get right into it. I'm sure people don't really give a fuck about Greek soccer besides us, so it's fine.
But I'm lucky in the sense that I've got England to root for. You don't.
Yeah. I mean, for my Americans, it's been a wild ride as well. They actually outdid the Greeks this time. I don't know how you do that, but the America found a way. So
yeah, so let's get into this.
All right, we'll get into it. Group A. Do you want to get started or should I get started? I have some hot takes, so either way you want to do it.
Well, just to let the listeners know, by trade, I'm a professional football analyst. I work for, I'm freelance, but I've worked for a few different professional football clubs. I do tactical analysis, some scouting for them. None of these views are the views of my employers, okay? This is just my take on who I predict, and I'm sure Pete's going to give us his views as well. And, we'll make some predictions and see whether I'm worth anything in this industry or whether I should just, start looking for another job.
Yeah, for real. Well, we're putting our asses on the line here for you guys, so you better appreciate what we're doing here. Anyways, get started, man. I'll hop in after you.
Well, obviously, we've got the hosts in Group A, Russia. We've got Uruguay, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. Uruguay, of course, 2 times winners in the past, the distant past. Russia, a lot of expected of them, but in my opinion, they're particularly weak. Their best player, Kokorin, will miss the World Cup through injury. Akinfeev is important to them in goal. Smolov is going to be their talisman up front. Golovin's going to hope to make some impact. But Egypt will be looking to Mohamed Salah, of course. Saudi Arabia, I think, are the whipping boys.
When is Mohamed Salah going to get back? Is it second or third game? Is it known?
Well, apparently he's out of the first game.
Oh, I heard it's like almost a second game as well. I saw a video on Twitter yesterday where an Egyptian fan wanted to take a selfie with him, and he like put his arm around Mohamed Salah's shoulder, the one that was hurt. And like the Egyptian security guards were like, get the fuck out of here. And like ripped him off, and they didn't even get the selfie with him. It was a brilliant video. It's hilarious. But it's not a good sign heading into the World Cup if you can't even wrap your arm around someone. But we'll see. We'll see. I think Egypt are kind of fucked without him. But go on. Finish yours and I'll hop in.
So for me, I think Salah's absence in the first game, possibly the second too, is going to be too much for Egypt. I think Russia should have enough to get through. I think Uruguay will win the group. They've got Vecino in centre midfield. They've got Godin in defence. But really, they're a good, solid outfit. But up front, when you've got Cavani and Luis Suarez, they're going to be a bit of a dark horse in this tournament. So that's my prediction. Uruguay to win the group, Russia to follow.
Very much a dark horse for Uruguay, and I think they're going to run rampant in this group. It's an interesting group, and with Salah out, it makes it a lot less of a spectacle. But I think overall, the first game, if we're starting off this World Cup with Russia, Saudi Arabia, I mean, that's who's the tallest midget, who has the longest chode. Like, it's just going to be like one of those stale games where you're just like, what are we watching here? It's going to be interesting.
Russia, I'll tell you something though. The pressure's on Russia. This is a game. If Russia don't win that first game, they're in serious trouble.
They'll win just because Saudi Arabia are so bad. I saw them play the Greece C team. I'm sure you watched the game in a friendly a while back, and they're like happy to beat the Greece C team. And it was like literally 18-year-olds getting called up that weren't good 18-year-olds either for the most part, other than like Belkas and a couple other guys. So Russia will be someone that I back to get out of this group as well, just because Salah being out for the first game, which is a critical first game. Just to get things going for them. And I see Uruguay actually going far as well. I think the dark horse is a perfect way to put it. I trust Godin in that back line to get stuff done. And up top, I mean, how can you not respect the likes of Cavani and Suarez? I will say, though, Egypt have a chance to shock. If Salah can go back for that second game when they do play Russia, that'll be kind of the be-all, end-all. I think Russia are going to be a lot of those like prototypical European teams that are like organized, not the easiest to break down, but like nothing kind of like that have lacking flair going forward as well. But I really think Egypt can get things going here, especially with Salah coming back if he comes back for that second game. But Egypt have an ace up their sleeve. Their keeper, I'm not going to pronounce his name. I'm not going to say his name because I can't pronounce it. But he's 45 years old. I think that's the oldest player in recent World Cup history, anyways. But what I'm getting at is if you have a keeper that's like goes against the run of play, so to speak. It goes up. He's like a spectacle in himself. He's got like weird hair, got a swagger to him or whatever. Teams tend to rally around that. So Euro 2016, Gabor Kirali, who was also like in his 40s. I think he was 43. He was like this overweight keeper that you can look him up. Gabor Kirali, it's spelled with a K, I think. He would tuck his in-game worn sweatpants into his socks, and he was bald. And this Hungary fucking smashed it. They got out of the groups. And it was wild. They rallied around him. He made a couple big saves in that first game against Austria where they gate crashed the shit out of him. And Alaba was like crying on the field after the game like a little twat. And it was wild. It was wild. And then you can also reference Colombia and Italia 90 where Rene Higuita with the scorpion kick and Carlos Valderrama. That was the last time Colombia made it out of the group stages and until James came in 2014. So they went on a huge drought after having Higuita retire. So keepers, if you're wild, if you got an ace up your sleeve, I like them. I like them a lot. And so Egypt, between Salah and the 45-year-old keeper, they can do some damage. But
the keeper you're talking about is Essam El Hadari.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he should be an inspiration to any listeners out there that are in their 40s. Listen, it's never too late. It's never too late. He's an experienced goalkeeper. Personally, I like my goalkeepers to be reliable rather than spectacular. There have been goalkeepers in the past where they'll win you a match, and then the next one they'll cost you a match. And I prefer steady. So, but I think the problem with Russia is not actually. I actually think they've got a problem with organisation. I think they've got a problem defensively, and I think they could come unstuck potentially because of that. But we'll see. Interesting group.
All right, Group B. I'll get this one started. It's not as clear cut as people think. A lot of people stateside here, like Portugal, Spain. Morocco could sneak into this if Portugal have their prototypical every other tournament implosion. But we'll get started. I'll just get started with Morocco here. So, very solid in defense. I think they led Africa. That between them and Tunisia, they led Africa with goals allowed in terms of defense and defensive efficiency. Benatia holding down that back line with Da Costa, Hakiri, Dirar in the attack and midfield. Excuse me. They have a lot of good players, and I don't think they get enough respect in the pre-World Cup chatter. That not for just us, but a lot of the main sites here in the U.S., Fox, whatever. They have a great defensive midfield. My only question is where the goal is going to come from. And when you go up against Portugal and Spain, you got to get goals somewhere. So that'll be tough. If they can hold off a draw against Portugal and get some going against Iran, I can see Morocco squeaking out. But it's not. It's more kind of like a wishful thinking thing. I definitely see Portugal and Spain. Definitely. I mean, if I was a betting man and you're a betting man, so we can talk about that a little bit. Somewhat. I know you have some work stuff that you can't disclose too much information. But I definitely see Portugal and Spain going out. But Iran also deserve a little bit of credit as well. Carlos Queiroz, the manager, he's a gamer. He knows how to pack it in, and he knows how to defend with numbers. And tactically, he's pretty smart and adaptive as well. You saw last tournament. I just dropped my pen here. You saw last tournament. They took Argentina to the brink, and Argentina obviously made that cup run to the World Cup final. So it's not like Iran are kind of something to laugh at either. They're a team that can kind of bring the heat to the table as well. I don't know what you have on Portugal and Spain. We can talk about snubs as well. There's a couple snubs for both sides that we can talk about, or we can save that for afterwards.
It's up to you. Should we save that for afterwards? Should we go through?
Yeah, we'll save the snubs for afterwards.
Okay. Well, I mean, one thing I will say about Morocco, they actually didn't concede a goal in the group stage qualifying. They didn't concede a goal.
Crazy. I was looking at friendlies as well. So yeah, but for qualifying, it's nuts.
You know, so they were in Group C in African qualifying. They had Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, Gabon, and Mali, and they scored 11 goals and didn't concede. So you know that's really impressive. The problem though with Morocco is that their talisman is a guy called Boussoufa, who's he's an attacking midfielder, and he's out. He's injured. Yeah. He's really their talisman, and I think ultimately that's really going to cost them. Mehdi Benatia, of course, of Juventus, he's been linked with a host of big moves. He's you know a fantastic centre back, really, but he's out. They're going to rely quite a bit on Hakim Ziyech of Ajax. He's brilliant for Ajax, and he's very good for Morocco too. If Boussoufa is able to make an appearance, if he's able to be fit, he's going to be a really big player for them. But either way, I just think that Portugal and Spain will have too much, to be honest. I think they'll both get through the group.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I do want to mention about Portugal is their back line is old, like very, very old. Bruno Alves, Pepe, they're getting up in years, I think 34, 36 and 35 respectively. It'll be interesting once they get out of the group stages. If they do, knock on wood, I want to see them do well. Like Fernando Santos, obviously the old Greece coach, won Euro 2016 with them. But I don't see Portugal going past like the quarterfinals in this tournament. I think their age in the back line is going to catch up to them, and I think they're bringing a weaker team to Russia than they did to France in 2016.
Well, the thing is, though, with a team like Portugal, because they're quite compact and they're going to sit back, they do have certain players that can make a difference in the final third. Portugal can potentially be very dangerous in the sense that if they can sit back, keep things tight, you know, they've got Andre Silva now up front as well, who's, you know, an upgrade on anything they've had up front in the past, along with Cristiano Ronaldo. They are going to have you know, they can approach it almost like a Uruguay type approach where they're going to be solid, combative. If the lines are close together and they sit quite deep rather than playing a high line, that age will not play as big of a role. So I actually think Portugal can potentially do very well, but they're also in that situation where they can also do badly. It's one of those situations where it's in the balance with Portugal. So
their midfield is a lot worse. So let's talk about snubs a little bit then, just because I think it is a factor in how the run of play is going to be. In 2016, you saw Nani and Renato Sanchez have a major part in that cup run, especially in the knockout stages. If you remember in the Poland game in the quarterfinals, Nani assisted Renato Sanchez, and Portugal were at a standstill. They really weren't able to produce. I think this was like the 55th minute. I could be wrong, but it was early in the second half. And Portugal were basically like lost for answers and in terms of being able to handle that Polish midfield and defense. And if it wasn't for Nani being able to beat a man, and for Renato Sanchez to really have a beautifully struck ball into like that near post corner, that kind of like gave them enough urge of like energy and a resurgence and a second win to kind of get through and overcome Portugal and overcome Poland in penalties. Both those players are gone. They weren't called up. I don't know why Nani wasn't called up. I feel like you'd want leadership in that attacking midfield role or on the wing, whatever. He's very versatile. Vieirinha, one of the wing backs that played a major part on that back line, not called up either. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that. So there's a lot of key guys from that 2016 Cup run that were sparks and stepped up when Ronaldo couldn't, and they're not there. So I'm worried about that midfield. Correct me not correct me, but if you disagree, let me know. That's kind of what I've been noticing.
Well, with regards to Renato Sanchez, he was terrible domestically. Yeah. He had a woeful season.
Yeah.
He couldn't get into his club side. He really, really struggled. And I think that's really affected him. Vieirinha, of course, he was used as a right back often for Portugal. He's now playing in that advanced number 10 role, and he's now playing in Greece. And perhaps they just didn't feel as though, PAOK playing in Greece at PAOK is a competitive enough league for him to then make that step up to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's ridiculous. History has shown us that. But I can, that's probably the approach he's taken.
I mean, he's played in Greece for a while too. So either way, go on.
He played in Greece initially, then he moved to Germany.
Yeah.
So he wasn't actually in Greece when he was at the Euros.
Yeah.
But in terms of their midfield, they rely a lot on Moutinho to make things happen. Quaresma's a bit of a wild card. He can come off.
I love Quaresma. He's one of my favorite players. But go on.
So William Carvalho's been linked to.
He's been big, linked with a bunch of places as well.
A bunch of places. Look, Bernardo Silva of Manchester City is a fantastic footballer.
Yeah.
They do have talent in midfield. I think they're a little bit. Look, they're dark horses in the sense that they're another team.
You have to rate them. Definitely, you have to rate them.
But I can see what you're saying. That it's an aging back line. I wouldn't be surprised if we see what we've seen in the past with Portugal, where they just implode early in the competition.
Yeah, I mean, you have to say on paper you do have to rate them, but I think in terms of like sparks, in terms of because everyone has a plan to get punched in the mouth, and when you're a coach in a World Cup, you have to make a squad, right? And on paper, I remember for Greece in 2014, I'm going to reference Greece a lot, so I'm sorry if that pisses people off. But I remember we had a squad. It's like, Fetat Sidi, who's like a small winger, or a small kind of shifty player, can make something happen in the midfield. We get to Colombia, and this guy is a ghost in the match, and we have to take him out. And it's like, all right, like what the fuck are we gonna do? So you need gamers. And Sanchez, I know he had a terrible season with Swansea, but he's a gamer, and I like the gamers. I like Nani. He also can step up in big moments as well. I will say, how much of it with Sanchez was bad form in the club level that's like irreversible for the World Cup, or was it a bad setup? Because I feel like I'm against the cuff in terms of how I want my World Cup teams to be drawn up, in the sense that like I loved when Chris Coleman in Euro 2016 called up Hal Robson-Kanu, who didn't have a club, and Hal Robson-Kanu, as you saw in the quarterfinals, mixed the Belgian back line for that second goal that put things out of reach for Belgium. But if like a normal coach who followed the normal run of how coaches call up teams, would have never called up Hal Robson-Kanu. So I like gamers like that. I like coaches that are willing to be bold like that. Was Sanchez one of those guys that could have done something like that? Or was it kind of just like so bad that you just had to get it done with?
I mean, look, it depends on your philosophy, okay? There are a lot of players that, when Greece did win Euro 2004, since we are talking a little bit about Greece, a lot of the players were playing domestically, and those that were abroad were struggling a little bit to get game time.
Yeah.
Haris, for instance, who became a star of the tournament, wasn't playing as much as he would have hoped to have been playing. So, it really depends. There isn't a right or wrong answer for this. He was terrible, though. I mean, he'd have the ball and he'd just, he'd give the ball. There was one moment that I just remember him, because I remember telling people he's a really good player. And a couple of people that weren't sure who he was, hadn't seen him really apart from at the Euros. They saw him collect the ball. And there was one moment where he literally just turned around and he tried to play a pass that he overhit by about 20 yards, and it just went out of play under no pressure. He was very, very bad, and Swansea really, really needed him to show up, and he didn't. Yeah. So perhaps Santos looked at it and said, look, in a high pressure situation, he's just not doing particularly well, and there are other players doing better than him. Look, I'm not saying he's right or wrong, I'm just talking about the logic. You know,
No, I definitely see Santos' logic as well. So yeah, it's not like a huge like how could you not, but it was definitely like okay, like that's an interesting move. It's a bold move. So we'll see if it works out. I think they'll be fine, honestly. But in terms of making that cup run deep, I think it'll be tough, and I don't think they'll be hoisting the cup at the end of this. One other thing before you hop on, we're going like way over time with this group, but Spain, I feel like a little bit one-dimensional as well. They have a lot of kind of those crafty, small midfielders that can pass and move. Other than Diego Costa up top, we can talk about it very quickly. There's a lot of questions for me as well, not taking up more athletic players. Like I feel like Hector Bellerin could have been a nice guy off the bench to kind of ease things up or provide a little bit of different options. It'll be interesting to see how they do as well. I feel like Italy gave us the blueprint in 2016 on how to handle a team like that. If you're just physical, you're aggressive going forward, and you kind of get them off their game. They're a skill-based team, so if you get them off their ability to utilize that skill with just aggressive play, being physical, compact in defense, Spain will be a team that could probably have an early exit after the group stages as well.
Well, Italy had a lot of success against Spain because they were pressing high up the pitch and were winning the ball in between the defense and midfield, and they were causing an awful lot of problems.
Yeah,
I definitely disagree with Bellerin. We're going to be disagreeing today, dude. We're going to
That's fine.
Bellerin was another one who had a terrible season for Arsenal. A really bad season for Arsenal. And I just think he's a liability. I think he relies far too much on pace rather than tactical know-how. The problem with Spain, where I do agree, is that they are very one-dimensional. If plan A isn't working for Spain, there is no plan B. Having said that, if they click and they play well, they're capable of anyone. They've got so much depth. Again, though, a lot of their players, Iniesta, Busquets, they are aging.
And there's no Pedro as well. I liked Pedro. I think his season for Chelsea was mediocre. It wasn't like terrible, but a lot of snubs as well, which we will get to later. But I just see that they lack someone to stretch the field. I was watching the World Cup final 2010 the other day, and that goal that Iniesta scored, it all started from Jesus Navas being able to kind of gate crash and catch Haaland on the break. And he had like a 60-yard run with the ball, laid it off to Torres, who had that over-the-top ball to Iniesta. And I don't think Vasquez is going to be that guy. And I just feel like when you're a World Cup coach, you want to have as many tools in your toolbox as possible. What I mean by that is you never know who you're going to come up against. Say you come up against a team that's very physical, you need to counteract that in X, Y, Z. If you have like, if you're what we were talking about, if you're one-dimensional, I just don't see how Spain can overcome that by just having the same type of player off the bench to come on. I feel like you need variety. I would have taken Alvaro Morata, even though he had a mediocre season, just because you need, if Diego Costa's not working, who you can have up top? You know, you don't really have another big kind of number 9 presence in the box. And Diego Costa can fall out of games, as we've seen in the past. So, well,
the thing is with Spain, they're not afraid to play a false 9. And when you've got players like, I mean, I'm not convinced by Aspas, but when you've got players like Asensio, like Isco,
Isco and Asensio are fucking good, man. So that's a good point. It's a really good point. And they won Euro 2012 with a false 9. Fernando Torres sat on the bench most of the time. I know he scored in the final.
I'm not sure they're as good now as they are then, but listen, time will tell. Time will tell.
Time will tell. But I mean, you have younger talent coming up in the ranks. So to counteract that with the aging players is big. A lot of other teams can't say they have that kind of talent coming off the bench.
They're certainly not as deep as France, for instance, who are in Group C.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, it's been interesting that how far we've kind of strayed away from the game plan. We said we were going to talk about each group for 2 minutes. We've been already like 20 minutes in. We're only at Group C, so it'll be interesting. Anyways, let's go. Group C, get started.
Usually the sort of guy who lasts longer than he promises to last. I've heard that as a rumor. That's just a rumor I've heard. That's all I've got to say.
Hey, they call me the 1 minute man. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. So
his PB is down to 32 seconds.
All right, let's get started in Group C then.
So Group C, obviously, we've got France, Denmark, Peru, and Australia.
Yep.
The French, for me, if I was pushed to pick a side to win it, I would probably lean towards France. I think they've got the most depth. You know, to think that you've got players like Pogba who aren't guaranteed to start. Payet being injured is a problem for me. I think he's a world-class player. He wasn't a guaranteed starter. Thauvin, make sure you look out for him off the bench. If he gets minutes, he can have a real impact. He was superb for Marseille.
Yeah.
But, you know, they've got players like Griezmann, but Kylian Mbappe up front as well, sort of like as a wide forward. So they've pace up front. They've got Giroud. When you're talking about different tools. So they've got Griezmann, who's a mobile striker who's looking to get in behind, clever with his movement. Mbappe, who's just lightning quick, looking to stretch fullbacks as he pulls off to the side. And then you've got Giroud, who's a target man. So they've got the ability to adapt as well. And I think France are going to get out of that group. Peru had Paulo Guerrero, who failed a drugs test and has managed to
he's back in, though. I saw that he's going to be able to play.
Back in. And listen, it raises a lot of question marks, doesn't it, about integrity. Christian Cueva is a very good winger for them. We're going to talk about drugs and prostitutes later on, because I've got a bit of a theory with regards to how this can help teams, actually. But we'll talk about that later with Pete. Pete's got a theory too. But for me, Denmark, listen, when we talk about dark horses, you've got the type of dark horses who you know, the Portugals, the Uruguays, the players, the teams that have got players on paper that can really take you to a next level. If you're looking at dark horses in terms of, you know, you want 100 to 1 shot and you just want to put some, you know, there are miracles have happened. Greece have won Euro 2004. Liverpool won the Champions League in 2005. If you're looking for that really outsider type team, Denmark are an outsider type team to look at. They're very, very well organized. Thomas Delaney's an excellent midfielder. Christian Eriksen's a superb midfielder.
How can you not talk about him? Exactly.
Exactly. Great on set pieces as well.
Who's dashing the goals? Nicholas Bender's not making the trip to Russia. Is it Poulsen?
Well, listen, this is the thing. When it comes to Denmark, when you're talking about Denmark, it's one of those scenarios. I mean, if you look at Greece, say, in Euro 2004, they didn't really have a world-class striker either. It's not ultimately the World Cup is a cup competition, and with a cup competition, if you get out of the group, you can potentially draw every game 0-0 and win the World Cup on penalties. But you know, you don't necessarily need a goal scorer who's going to go and grab all these goals. Yes, Yusuf Poulsen's going to start up front for them, and when you look at you know, the bench, you've got guys like Dolberg, who sits on the bench for Ajax. You've got Cornelius, who sits on the bench for Atalanta.
Crondelli, my boy Crondelli.
Victor Fischer is a guy that you need to look out for potentially off the bench. He doesn't start for Denmark, but he is superb for Copenhagen. So off the bench, he could have a real impact. Sisto of Celta Vigo is a guy to look out for as well on the left wing. They have talent in this side. It's more about organization. You're not going to be looking at this team for goals. If they're going to do well in this competition, they're going to get out of the group and they're going to really be trying to nick games 1-0, 2-0, even though they battered Ireland in the playoffs. They're a very well-organized outfit. So for me, they're a good side, Denmark. I think it will be France and Denmark. Sorry to the Aussies out there. I know there are going to be a few Aussies out there, but listen, Moyes a good player. He had a very good Premier League season, but he's a bit of a pit bull. I can't see Australia getting anywhere near qualifying from this group.
Yeah, Australia, I mean, new coach, Ange Postecoglou was the guy that kind of had that team in a good-looking kind of stance for the World Cup 2014 and afterwards as well. Bert van Marwijk, you know, he's taken over now, the former Dutch national team coach that brought the World Cup final. But I don't see it at all, man. I don't see it at all. There's some infighting. Tim Cahill's their best player at 38. Not their best player, but their most experienced talisman at 38. I just don't see it happening. I also don't see what happening. France walking away with this group. I don't like their selections at all. And I watched them play the U.S. The U.S. basically under 19s team basically, and how they barely came away with a 1-1 draw there. Mbappe finally knocked one in the 78th minute, but they were down for a good 40-minute stretch. And they're a team that I think Deschamps, after the Euro 2016, he is like, this team was too, what I have here in my notes. Yeah, he thought they were too athletic, so to speak, in 2016. That's just the vibe I'm getting. And he took a lot of that depth of athleticism away. There's no Kingsley Coman. There's no Sissoko, who had a great Euro 2016 final. And he's opting for kind of more of a balance. He wants more tools in the toolbox, but I don't think Tolisso is going to win you a World Cup off the bench anytime soon. So basically what I'm getting at is their biggest weakness, I think, France, is Deschamps. I don't like him as a tactician. I don't like the team he's called up.
I do agree with that.
We saw that in the Euro 2016 final, Deschamps' tactics were, I mean, once Santos was a gamer and he was able to kind of put a squad that Deschamps wasn't able to break down, they had no answers when, even with all the tools in the toolbox, like we said, in terms of players, he wasn't able to get it done. I also don't like the fact that he was someone that is, I don't know if it's him or the French FA, but not calling up Benzema for another tournament, I think is a big mistake. It bit them in the ass in 2016 when you have Gignac hitting the post in the 90th minute, which would have ended that game, and they ended up losing.
I think Benzema would have been too disruptive. I mean,
I don't know, man. Is it disruptive? He had a prostitute scandal, whatever. I don't. For me, again,
I don't think it's the prostitute thing. It's the fact that he was allegedly involved with blackmailing a teammate, Valbuena. And listen, if you've got a guy that the team don't trust and don't want him around,
is it just a Valbuena thing, or is it the entire team is kind of like with this guy?
Well, from listen, I'm not an insider in the French camp, but from what I understand from things I've read, he's a very unpopular character because of that. I mean, look,
it's important. Chemistry-wise, that is important. So
let's relate this situation to an everyday situation. Imagine we're a bunch of dudes, we're out on a stag do, okay, and there's one guy who tried somehow to blackmail one of the boys. I don't know what he did. He filmed something that he did on that stag do, and he said, listen, I want money, otherwise I'm leaking this tape. Even if that one guy says, you know what, I don't trust any of you, I don't want anything to do with your friendship group anymore. If you're still bringing him into your friendship group, there are going to be a few others there that can say, I don't trust this guy. And they're going to have a great time on that stag. I think they're right not to take Benzema personally. I can understand the counter argument, but
I didn't realize it was team-wide then. I kind of swept the Valbuena story under the rug then.
I mean, for me with France, I do agree that Deschamps' their biggest problem. I wouldn't look too much into the USA game. We'll go back to Greece again. When Greece won Euro 2004, in qualifiers, they lost their first 2 qualifying games. After that, when Ray Hagel's tactics started to take note, this is something that people don't often talk about. Greece won every single qualifying game without conceding a goal, including in Spain when they were down to 10 men in the first half after like 30 minutes or whatever it was. And it was 0-0 at that point, and Greece still went on to beat Spain 1-0 in Spain. And then when they got to the Euros, they won the Euros. They became the first ever team to win a major tournament without conceding a goal in the quarters, the semis, or the final. So clearly they were a great side. But just before the tournament began, they lost 4-0 in a friendly to Holland. And a lot of people were sitting there saying, oh, look, this is the real Greece. You know, it was just some lucky run that Greece had such a good defense in qualifying.
It happened with Italy before Euro 2012 as well. They lost 3-0 to Russia and ended up winning it. And Russia didn't make it out the groups.
Exactly. You know, sometimes when you're this close to the World Cup, players are concerned.
No one wants to get hurt. And it's funny. It's ironic because on Twitter yesterday, I was arguing with some, I'm not going to use the R word, but I was arguing with some dumb USA fan who had like 27 followers. He's like, why play friendlies then? And I was telling him, like, dude, like, this team is not trying to get hurt. They're probably at walking pace or 70%, just trying to have some shadow play, some tactics, and figure out the last kinks before the World Cup. In the same breath, though, they in Belgium fall into this trap, I think, where people understand how good that they are. So most teams who are worse than them, because they're two of the best teams in the world, they pack it in, whether it's with numbers or just in terms of their game plan going into the match. The opponent will emphasize defense and look to cut off all kind of intertwining runs between the defenders, between the lines of midfield and defense. And usually teams can do a good job of that. I mean, modern football, people are educated, know how to play team defense a little bit more. And France and Belgium are teams that really struggle, that I've seen in the past, struggle to break that down. And they revert to long shots, revert to crossing the box and headers, and that's easier to defend than playing intercombinational football, triangle passing and whatnot in the attacking third. So those two teams are going to struggle the most, I think, to break it down. And we saw even in last tournament as well, France, unless they score early, it's usually kind of like a wait and see if they can poke one in. Against Romania in the opening match, they're able to. Payet had a moment of brilliance. But I think they're gonna struggle to break down some teams. And the teams I'm talking about aren't just Peru and Denmark in this game. But we'll get to their cup run a little bit later. But Peru and Denmark, I do want to talk about that game. That first game between those two, it's going to kind of shape this group. I do have France winning it. I'm being skeptical, but I like Peru a lot. I think they're actually a very well-rounded team. I think Jefferson Farfan is kind of like that guy, the pacemaker, the emotional kind of complex of the team, and helps out with his experience as well. And I think they have the ability to rally. And I think Denmark are kind of a team that they haven't really had much experience. This younger group in a cup setting before. I can definitely see Denmark not making out this group, but I mean, again, Christian Eriksen is so talented. We saw what he did to Ireland in the playoffs. I can see France Peru going out very easily. So I don't know if you're in the same boat, but unless you have anything else to add, we can move on to Group D. But I'll let you have your say.
Let's get to Group D.
Yeah. All right. Let's break it down. You go.
Well, obviously here we've got Argentina, Iceland, Croatia, and Nigeria. This is a really, really interesting group. This group is a potential banana skin for all four of the teams.
What is it? What is a banana skin? I don't know what a banana skin is.
Oh man, you Americans, we invented the language, and you guys just get rid of all these beautiful sayings.
Yeah, the Brits. I will say, Brits are so much funnier than Americans. Like, so here, if I can be tangential very quickly, there's this idea that like white Americans like aren't funny, and I think it's true because white Americans not as creative, but British Americans that are British, that are white are fucking hilarious, and I think it's just a cultural thing. The term banana skin, which I'm about to learn about, and others. When Brits call out Trump on Twitter, they have like the funniest insults, like a jizz trumpet. I don't know what a jizz trumpet is, but like there is some just funny terms. So, anyways, go on. Brits are funny. Go on.
This isn't really a funny phrase, but it just essentially means it's a team you can slip up against, the situation you can slip up against. You can mess up.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a sexual innuendo. Go on. Okay, gotcha.
Potential banana skin. Argentina on paper in the final third are superb. Okay, so you've got Messi, you've got Aguero, you've got Dybala. They're so good. Icardi didn't even make it. That's one of those snubs that we can talk about later.
There's a story for him, so we'll go on.
So they've got Higuain. They've got some terrific talent up front. In defense, though, there are some problems. Mascherano's aging, and he still plays for them.
Is he going to be defensive midfielder or center back? Because he played defensive midfield, I think.
Defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
But I just mean as a defensive unit. I don't mean the defense.
I think their midfield is worse than their defense in terms of capability and helping this team move forward.
I think they're going to have a lot of problems. Otamendi, I think, is their star centre back, and he's
Rojo, Garay.
At this stage of their career, I mean, they
were lucky to qualify.
Sorry,
I don't think Rojo's that old.
No, he's not old, but he just didn't develop as they expected him to develop. He's I mean, listen, when they're talking about Man United really kicking on and developing into a top-class club, they talk a lot about Shaw playing at left back and really filling that spot. Ashley Young, of course, is the one that came in when Shaw got injured and didn't really do it. And he plays more as a, I mean, when Young plays as a wing back, he's a lot more effective when he plays as a fullback. The point is, Rojo, it just hasn't really been convincing at all for Man United. He's not a world-class player. When you look at their team, they could potentially have problems. They have played Nigeria in a friendly back in November, and they lost.
Yeah, they lost.
So the fact that, listen, they shouldn't have lost. They created an awful lot. But the fact that they're conceding 4 goals in a game like that, the fact that they're struggling to qualify in the first place, it shows you that they're very reliant on Messi. And I think they're going to have real problems. I think they will get through the group. Iceland, Croatia is an interesting one because Iceland finished above Croatia in the group stage. They beat Croatia at home and lost to Croatia away. Croatia on paper. The thing is, by the way, the thing is with Iceland, Sigurdsson's injured. He's not fit. He may recover from what I understand. Teams are going to have up until the day before they play to be able to replace injured players. Sigurdsson, though, is really their talisman. It's a team.
Iceland's a team effort. The beauty of Iceland is anyone can score at any time for them. They're very improvisational with who scores. Everyone's capable and hungry for a goal, which is good tactically. It makes you very, very dangerous. And I think Iceland have a chance to squeak out of this group if Nigeria implode and Croatia kind of choke. I have a theory about Croatia, but you can finish your point.
I was going to say, I think that the problem with Iceland, though, is going back to March. So we're not just talking about France's example with
bad
the USA.
Run of form. Yeah, bad run of form.
Not just a bad run of form. They lost 3-0 to Mexico, 3-1 to Peru, 3-2 to Norway, and 2-2 with Ghana. Ghana's B team, by the way. Ghana left out 7 players.
It was bad.
So they're not. One of the things that made Iceland successful, they're quite a big combative side. They're not blessed with a whole bunch of talent. They're very much a workman-like team.
Yeah.
They need to be keeping clean sheets if they're going to do anything. If they're conceding an average of 3 goals a game, they've got no chance in this.
No chance.
Now, when you look at Croatia, I know you and I have disagreed a lot about Croatia in the past. I think on paper, they're unbelievable.
They're amazing on paper, but it's not. This tournament isn't played on paper.
No, but when you do have players like Modric, Rakitic, Perisic, Mandzukic, even Lovren, who gets a lot of stick for Liverpool, he's still a good enough centre back to be able to lead the team along with Van Dijk to be able to take them to a Champions League final. So they've got quality throughout this team. The problem with Croatia is that whenever they seem to play, they always seem to play to the opponent's level.
Yes.
You rarely see Croatia batter someone, fine. But what they do often is dictate possession. That midfield is superb. They've got Risalko as well at the back. They've got good players.
They're good, man. They're fun. I mean, again, they're an amazing team on paper, but I just don't see the ability to roll up their sleeves and grab a game by the scruff of the neck, being able to, just have big balls in the moments when they need it. Let's go. I'm going to run you through a little history here, Chris. I'm a history minor at BU, graduated. Congratulations to me. Oh wait, you ready? Euro 2008. Modric and a lot of these older veteran players were in the squad for that 08 game. I think it was the quarterfinals against Turkey, right?
Okay, yeah. And they lost
Game goes to extra time. They score in the 118th minute. Turkey scored in the 120th minute. Turkey went on penalties. Okay. That's a team that you implode. That's an implosion. That's a you shit the bed. World Cup 2010 didn't qualify. Okay, how do you have a team like that doesn't qualify? And Modric and Rakitic has risen to the kind of less than he was a 19-year-old in 08. He's older now. Him and Modric were in that midfield. Mandzukic was there.
Wait. Why didn't they qualify in 2010?
Didn't they lose in the playoffs to Turkey?
Was it
Turkey? They lost. They lost in the playoffs to someone. Anyways, let me just go on. Euro 2012 didn't make it out of the groups. Tough group. Italy and Spain were in the finals, so it's a tough group, but didn't make it out of the groups. World Cup 2014 didn't make it out of the groups. There's no reason why they can't get past Mexico. There's no reason why they couldn't get 6 points from Mexico and Cameroon in that group. So even they had 4, they ended up losing. I think Mexico had 5, Brazil had 7, I think, something like that. So anyways, you got to get out of that group. And then Euro 2016, they played against Portugal. They were dominating the match. They were creating all the chances. They weren't able to have the final tooth in the cut the jugular in the attack. Portugal ended up scoring, I think, like the 116th minute, and it's game over from there. This team chokes. You want to call it choking, you want to call it whatever. This team is not. They don't have the mental fortitude to kind of handle the pressure of the knockout stages. I can definitely see a universe where Croatia don't get out of this group or don't get far in this tournament, despite the talent they have on paper.
I mean, I remember far back in 2010, if I remember rightly, but please, if I'm wrong, correct me, anyone, all the listeners out there writing.
Destroy in the comments if you do.
Yeah, I think England won the group and Ukraine went to the playoffs. And if I remember rightly, Croatia didn't have the likes of Modric. They had guys like Chorluka, Dario Srna was still a big part of their team, Niko Kranjčar.
Nikita Olic, I think, was still there.
Pranjic, I think, was there.
Yeah, still a decent team, man. Still a decent team.
Mandzukic and Mandzukic was there. So but generally speaking,
Kramaric.
It's a different team now. And also
the root is still there. The midfield unit is still there. There was Rakitic and Modric were there since 08 together. I mean, I know they're young in 08, but there's a pattern. There's a pattern.
Are you sure they were playing? I don't think they'd played.
They were.
Back then.
I mean, they were playing in the game, and the Turkey game I was watching. They were in it for most of the game. I think they even Modric started, but I think Rakitic came off the bench in the 75th minute, which means he played half the game because it's a 120-minute game.
I don't know. Sometimes I think you learn as well from your errors. Listen, I think they're a good side. I mean, the thing is with Nigeria as well, who have got a lot of talent. I've seen an awful lot of Nigeria. They've got problems. Defensively, they're woeful. Absolutely woeful. In midfield, Ndidi is huge for them. Alongside Ndidi, they've got Mikel, and they can rotate the third one. Usually it's going to be oh my god, I can't believe what's happened to me. I've had a brain freeze.
It's fine. We can go through that midfield though. John Obi Mikel, okay, he's important. Yeah, the Chelsea man. Alex Iwobi, okay, we can go through him. He's important. Iheanacho, you have
Iheanacho's not guaranteed to start for them.
Yeah,
guaranteed to start. But
yeah, Victor Moses, Ahmed Musa, a lot of pace, a lot of skill going forward. And I know they may not have major roles for their clubs, but when you put them together, they can beat Argentina 4-2. They can do some damage up top. It will be the question will definitely be the goalkeeper situation. I know I was reading your Twitter a while back. You were saying that Nyema, since he's been gone, they've had some guys that were good, but there's injuries, sickness, and whatnot. The keeper and backline situation for Nigeria will be big. So
the keeper's a big situation. After Nyama, they had they tried a couple of different keepers. Like Pay played, and then Ezenwa played. They actually right after he got injured, they stuck with Ikemi. Carla Kami, the Nigerian goalkeeper, who did very well, but then he got leukemia. He's battling that now, and they've had problems. Uzoho's now the goalkeeper. By the way, the third central midfielder has come to mind. Is Onazi. Very combative, a bit sloppy when they've tried to be a bit more expansive and played Ogu. They've really struggled. He played against Serbia, and they were really poor.
Yeah, Serbia walked them out of the park. I remember.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations whereby whenever they've tried to go with him, I think he played against the Czech Republic as well, they've given up an awful lot of chances. So it's almost as though they need those holding midfield three to protect the back line. Up front, Iniacho's had a terrible season. He's not even guaranteed to start. Igalo's starting in the last couple of friendlies. Iniacho, when they do use him, tends to be used as an attacking midfielder, and he hasn't impressed them. Moses, who was their talisman and has been huge for them, has been a little bit greedy and holding on to the ball a little bit too much. They've got issues with balance. Nigeria can click. They can.
They can. I've seen them do it. In qualifiers they clicked as well. They looked like almost like a Dutch total football style. It did not look like a typical like African style. So
one thing they rely on an awful lot is they look to exploit space in behind. So because they've got terrific pace up front, and because they can sit deep with those three holding midfielders, when teams try to push up against them, they can get teams turning. What they can't do is play a horizontal, expansive game. They can't. They can't maintain possession effectively. I think Nigeria are going to struggle in this tournament. If they do click and the others don't, they can cause a shock. You know, Nigeria have beaten Argentina, and they do have the tools, in a sense, to cause Nigeria problems. Because
it really is a mixed bag. It really is a mixed bag. And
one thing I'll say though, with sorry to cut you off. One last thing I'll say: if they all click, all the teams are at their best. I believe it's Croatia and Argentina that get through the group. Argentina, Croatia. But with Argentina having these issues defensively,
I think they'll be fine for the group stages, honestly. I don't see any of the back lines here being able to stop them.
We'll see. I mean, I hope, you know, for Messi's sake, I hope they're not embarrassed in this tournament.
No. I want Messi to do very, very well. And I think, I mean, with Argentina, I mean, I'd even get the midfield out of the mix. I'd play like a 4-3-1, 4-3. What was I going to say? I had this in my head, and it was, it's a 4-1-3-2. I would have either Mascherano or someone that's able to kind of like being able to be a holding mid. Then I'd have Messi, Di Maria, Dybala, and then Higuain and Aguero up top together and just fucking gate crash people.
I think one of the reasons they're not going to want to necessarily do, I mean, they can do that, but I think they're going to want to use a bit of width as well. They're going to want, Messi will drop deeper for Argentina.
For sure. He's going to be more of like a number 10 pacemaker, distributor role more.
I think you're going to want to get width to stretch teams horizontally to give Messi space in the middle. If it's all through the middle, I think they might struggle a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's width. You can provide width with that as well. So
your picks Argentina and...
It's tough, man. It's fucking tough. But I'll go against the cuff and go with Nigeria. I think they can click. I think Iceland are a little bit their game is done. Everyone knows what they're bringing to the table now. I kind of rode them early. I had them beating England in the Euros in 2016. I knew England was a wounded duck, and I saw the writing on the wall with Iceland. But I think they're just going to be caught out, and then I mean, the right move is Argentina, Croatia, but like just for fuck's sake, I'll just put in Nigeria just to be fun with it. All right, Group E. This will be a quick group. I think it's pretty straightforward. Actually, not really, but in terms of like what they bring to the table, it's not like this last group. Brazil, they're a team. You talk about France winning the whole thing. I think Brazil are not only more well-rounded, but they have the players to get it done. And I think they should be the number one in terms of being able to win the whole thing. They finally have a keeper. They finally have a bunch of strikers up top now, whether you want to go with Gabi Jesus or Firmino. The midfield is stacked, okay? Stacked.
Brazil were the favourites, and rightly so.
Yeah, rightly so. I mean, you have Neymar, who fucking mixed Austria yesterday. I tweeted it out. Follow me at Pound of the Show. He fucking mixed them. They beat Austria 3-0, who just beat Germany 2-1. I know that, like, the whole mismatching and circular scores thing doesn't really work, but Brazil looked fucking good, man. I mean, there's so many options in that midfield. You have Casemiro, you have Coutinho. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Douglas Costa, Fernandinho, and then on the back line, it's fucking solid, man. You have Miranda, you have Thiago Silva, you have Marcelo. I don't like that Danilo wasn't called up. I would have liked to see him in there, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And then Ederson and Alisson, you have two really good keepers. So it's that team is gonna fucking dick stomp teams. What the other thing I see is so basically it's a 3-horse race for that second spot. There's no kind of whipping boy of this group. Serbia, Costa Rica, and Switzerland. I like Serbia a lot. I know that you've had your say with Serbia as well. Well, I'll let you take it from here, though, with Serbia, actually, instead of me just rambling.
I know. Listen, Serbia are a very, very talented team. Guys like Matic, Tadic, Kolarov, they've got quality throughout. Mitrovic has had a terrific season.
Yeah, very good season
in England. A very, very talented outfit. The thing is, when you talk about chokers, the Serbs are typical chokers. You know, they've got some top players and they just haven't performed. Whereas you've got a team like Switzerland, almost like Denmark in the sense that they're very, very well organized, had a terrific qualifying campaign.
Yeah.
In a weird way, Switzerland achieve above their level when you look at individual players.
Switzerland are perpetually slightly above average. They'll always just be slightly above average.
Well, yeah, but at the moment, the type of football they're playing is well above average. And
so they're a team that I see doing very, very well in qualifiers, and then once tournament time comes, you need to step up. It's just kind of like they've already maxed out. They've already maxed out their potential, I think.
I mean, look, if you're talking about them winning it, then I agree. But if we're just talking about the group stages, if I had to bet on one of the two, in a weird way, it's almost as though I expect Switzerland to be more reliable than Serbia. I don't know what Serbia is going to turn out.
Switzerland is definitely more reliable. Serbia has more potential. Their range on the spectrum is like way out. Switzerland is like
more talented players. They've got more talented players.
Yeah.
But
Serbia, a very underrated side. I feel like most people don't know about them. But I mean, we just listed off a bunch of players, but they're good. They're a good team. If you don't know much about them, you should definitely get excited about them as a spectacle, because they're going to be a fun team to watch. They battered who was it? Branislav Ivanovic had that nasty goal.
Bolivia.
Yeah. So all right, Bolivia is not like the best opposition to kind of a reference, but they battered them and they looked good. They looked good against Nigeria. This is a team that can do some damage for sure. The other two, not the other two. The other one is Costa Rica, which is a wild card. This is the most wild card of wild cards, because we saw what they did in 2014. They ripped my heart out. I still watch Greece, Costa Rica, round of 16, and nearly not break down, but I get very frustrated. They have the makings of a team that can. They're built to. They're the best example of, don't let us get out of the group stages, otherwise you're fucked. Because they'll happily play like 6 in the back. They have Keylor Navas to back them up in goal, who's amazing. I think he's world class. People were saying during this year, during the Champions League, they're like, he shouldn't be starting. Keylor Navas is world class. He's a top 2, top 3 keeper in the world, in my opinion. So if they rally around him, they can rally around getting numbers to support him in the defense as well. And then you have players like Brian Ruiz and Joel Campbell that they're still worthy for, having a shock up top. So this is a team that I can definitely see overcoming Switzerland. I can definitely see them taking advantage of a Serb team that is always infighting with themselves or not reaching their potential. For me, if I were to guess right now, I honestly would say Brazil, Serbia. I don't see Costa Rica being able to do it. They looked great against Northern Ireland. They played another friendly recently. I forget against who. It wasn't like a very worthy adversary, and they looked like bad. Oh, you know what? No, it was against England. That's my apologies. And England looked great, and England do look great. So we'll get into that. But I just see Brazil, Serbia. I think the talent here, Serbia comes through. It's a younger team. It's not that other than Kolarov and Ivanovic. It's a younger team for the most part, and I can see them definitely overcoming too. They're talented, and they're more talented than the other two, and I think they get it together this tournament. So we'll see what you think.
If I had to go with two teams, I'd go obviously with Brazil, and then I think I'd go towards Switzerland. I'd lean towards Switzerland, but we'll see.
It's a very fair prediction. All right, Group G. Group F. Excuse me. We don't even know that was here. Yeah, F. Germany, Mexico, Sweden, Korea. So here stateside, Fox Soccer has the broadcasting rights to the World Cup, and they're trying to get more American viewers involved because the U.S. aren't in it. And the way they're doing that is literally the most laughable, cringy way possible. They're comparing different players from different teams to basketball players. Like this is the Steph Curry of Brazil, and like just like woeful shit like that. So I've been calling them out every now and again. And the worst thing, honestly, that they're doing, they have Group F as the group of death. First of all, let's clarify something here for our American viewers. There's no group of death in this World Cup. There's not enough talented teams for there to be a group of death in this World Cup. And if there were a group of death in this World Cup, we've already talked about it. It's the Argentina group. This group here is not the group of death. Just because Germany's in it doesn't make it a group of death. And I think Germany is a weaker side than they were 4 years ago, even 2 years ago. I don't see this being a highly contested group. I think it's a horse race between Mexico and Sweden for that second spot. I think Sweden are a very underrated team. I think they're top 3 in Europe in terms of total defense, goals allowed, possession, and whatnot. They also had Italy in a stranglehold, and Italy were not able to break down their defense. I know there's poor tactics, poor substitutions from the Italian coach in that playoff draw. But Sweden are tall. They're not the best up top. I like Marcus Berg. He's a former Panathinaikos player. But the goals are going to be few and far between. If you look at their run of form, I don't think they've scored. I think I have it in my notes. They haven't scored a goal since March, which is that's like 5 or 6 games. So to be able to get through, I mean, like I said, this tournament favors teams that can defend and pack it in. Like we were talking about earlier, you can 0-0 draw your way in the knockout stages of the World Cup, but you need to get to the knockout stages and you need goals to do that. And that's the biggest question mark for me. Sweden are a team that they can defend the lights out, and but 3-0 draws are going to get you anywhere. Korea, I think they're going to be the whipping boys of this group. I don't see them doing much. I know Son, and there's a couple skillful guys, but in terms of the Asian teams, they're one of the weaker ones. I would rate Iran over Korea at this point. I don't know if I'm being I'm a hot take artist by saying that, but and then Mexico, the last one, they're weaker than they were in 2014. I kind of rate teams based on how they looked in past tournaments, and they're weaker. There's not really a lot of youngsters coming up in the wayside. A lot of their older players that have been very, very good in older tournament and in past tournaments. They're all playing in the MLS now, or it's in the Mexican leagues. Back 4 years ago, Giovanni Dos Santos was playing for Sevilla, I think, or was it Sevilla, or I'm going to sound like such a hard-o by like not being able to remember. But he was playing in the Spanish league for a pretty good side, and I'm going to look it up now. But Chris, what do you think about this group?
The thing is with Mexico, they're a good side. Mexico are one of those teams who I always had a soft spot for.
I love them as well.
When I was growing up, I always loved the fact that they were technical, but they always seemed to be such a small side. They were also short that it would always work against them. They'd concede headers all the time. When I was a kid, I remember their goalkeeper had this colorful shirt on, and he was small and he was really agile. And things.
Yeah, they're a poor man's Spain with like more flair, if that makes sense.
So it captured my imagination as a kid,
yeah.
You know? And I always liked them and I always rooted for them. The problem is I don't see where the goals are going to come from.
Exactly.
You know, they rely on Javier Hernandez, Chicharito, but
you have gamers in there. You have Carlos Vela back. He wasn't there in 2014. You have
but how good really?
They've definitely regressed. Those players that were very good in past tournaments, like I've said, they've regressed. So it'll be. I think you've nailed it with where the goals are going to come from. And the defense, still have Rafa Marquez, who's 39 in the squad. He was supposed to retire 4 years ago. Shows you how much
an important player for them.
Yeah, that shows you how much talent they have on the defensive side if they need to call up Rafa Marquez out of retirement, though. So I don't see them being able to get out of this one. I think if I'm using my brain, I've used my heart for the last few groups when I've made predictions here, but I'm going to use my brain this time. Germany and Sweden, I think, I'll go through on this one. I just think they suffocate Mexico, and Korea have not enough to go through. All right, Group G. This is an interesting one. This is Belgium, England, Tunisia, and Panama. I feel like every English person I've talked to, I have a bunch of English friends here stateside, and there's just so much skepticism in the squad. I think it's just that classic British self-deprecation. But if I'm an Englishman, I'm fucking excited about this team.
No, you know what? This is actually an interesting topic. English fans have always, and pundits are actually quite traditionally, we're talking, especially pundits, are quite arrogant. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. In Euro 2004, I remember England was spoken about as having a world-class left-back, Ashley Cole. We're talking about pundits now, okay?
Yeah.
World-class left-back, Ashley Cole. World-class centre-backs in Sol Campbell and Rio Ferdinand. World-class, the best midfielder in the world, we were told, with Gerrard. Other fans would say, no, the best midfielder in the world is Frank Lampard. Others would say, oh, but at least, there's the best young striker in the world in Wayne Rooney. And there was always, these world-class players, this world-class defense. And then when you looked at England's results, England conceded 2 against Portugal, 1 against the Swiss, 2 against Croatia, 2 against France. So apart from that one Swiss game where Switzerland were a very young side, they averaged 2 goals a game conceding. How good could that defense have possibly been? Yeah. And yet there were so many superstar names. So what's happened, I think, with a lot of England fans, when they had a lot of these players who, listen, if you're asking my opinion on why those teams underachieved, there were a couple of reasons. Number one, some of those players were overrated. But number two, you had some of those players that relied. So you look at someone like Frank Lampard. What was he brilliant at? He had good distribution. He was fantastic at arriving late in the box, and he had to finish, and he had a beautiful shot on him. Gerrard, very dynamic. He'd pick up the ball, burst past players, a thunderous shot, a real leader, passionate, tough in the tackle. But if it meant England had to control the tempo of a game and play these short triangles, these tiki-taka type passes that we see Spain play, England didn't really have that style of player. Yeah. It was more of a gung-ho approach. So when you're at Liverpool, you've got Xabi Alonso behind you, Gerrard is able to be free and able to go ahead and do
dependent on club players. Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off, but I think I knew that's where you're going with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with England, the problem is, I think a lot of fans failed to understand that perhaps the balance was wrong. But additionally to that, I felt that because at the time there were so many, and they were world-class players, the balance wasn't right, which we'll talk about with Belgium in a second, because I think they might have potentially a similar problem. But with England now, where are the world-class names? There aren't any really. And so England fans...
But here's the thing. If I can interrupt you for a second. We saw Portugal beat France without Ronaldo. There's no world-class names other than Pepe really in that squad in 2016. What that showed us is you don't really need, and it's the same thing with Greece. You don't really need a squad of world-class players to do damage. Greece were a spot kick away in the 2014 World Cup from the quarterfinals, and could have gone even farther. You don't really. I look at the squad. Let's break it down. Let's break it down. Back line, okay. I trust Gary Cahill. He's the oldest one. He's gonna be the leader of that squad. Put in Stonesy. Put in someone else on the other center back pairing. You have a decent center back duo. You have Pickford. You can have Butland, whoever you want in goal. They're going to be okay. I think you'll get a consistent consistent performance out of them. Whoever Gareth Southgate chooses. You have the wingbacks: Danny Rose, Kyle Walker. That's probably the best wingback duo now that Carvajal is down in the cup, and Dani Alves is out as well in the cup. Who's a better pair of consistent, talented left and right wingbacks?
I don't think Marcelo and Dani Alves.
No, Dani Alves isn't in, though.
He's not in?
He's injured. Dani Alves is not in the squad.
Oh, did he not make it then?
Yeah, he's hurt. He's hurt. And then for Carvajal got hurt in the Champions League final as well. So you have a very good...
Carvajal, I know is out. I know Carvajal's out.
Despite those...
But I'd read a couple of days ago that Dani Alves might have made a recovery. Is that not right then?
We'll see on that. But for right now, I saw him not even being included in the squad.
That means he's out. Then he's out officially.
So you have those. That aside, the fact that we're even talking about them in the conversation, I think you have a very, very good pair of wingbacks. So your back line it's solid. It's solid. And going forward, they're going to be fucking dangerous. Okay, who do we have going forward? The one weak spot is that midfield. Henderson, you got to have someone in there. Anyone that can just get the job done in midfield, that's fine. That's going to be your weakest spot. You're going to have to tactically kind of plan around that. Going forward, though, I love what you guys have going forward. You have a lot of tools in the box. You have Harry Kane. You have Raheem Sterling that can stretch the field, get in behind. And you have someone that can clatter in goals in the box like Harry Kane, a big, strong guy. Welbeck is okay. He can beat a guy. He can dribble at you and beat a guy and whip something in the box as well. You have what it takes to go far. To win, maybe not. But these English guys that I keep hearing we're not good, we're not good. You have a good team, and this is a weak tournament. It's a top heavy.
I don't actually think Rose will play. I think it will be Cahill, Stones, and probably
Walker and who?
I think we'll see a 3-5-2. So whoever he picks as a third centre back, against Nigeria, he went with Walker, and he had Young and Trippier as
that's the other one to miss. Ashley Young is going to be a huge part of this team as well.
But whatever the case might be, I'm actually excited about this England side. I'm not saying, I'm just explaining the reason why I think a lot of England fans are not. I think a lot of England fans are looking at this team and they're thinking, where are our stars? And I think it's putting them off a little bit. It's scaring them a little bit.
That's an untrained eye then, because you got to look at the potential. You got to look at other things as well.
Look, the thing is, though, again, with England, if you look at the history of England, you talk about Croatia and things, we have often choked in the quarterfinal stages, whether it's on penalties or not. And I think a lot of England fans, which in a way might help England for once, don't have that expectation of we're going to win this. And if there's no pressure, one thing I'll say about England, especially against Nigeria and also against the Dutch, they seemed very adaptable. They could play by getting in behind. They could work openings. They could, if you sat deep against them, they were effective at getting the ball out in the flanks and whipping in quality deliveries. I'm actually one of the few people I've spoken to in England who's actually excited about this team. I think England might even win this group. I think you look at Belgium.
They have a very big chance to.
Look, I mean, Belgium have got a galaxy of stars,
But they lack chemistry. There's not really much chemistry with Belgium.
I'm not sure if the issue is chemistry. I just think the issue is, again, a lot of the players are very forward thinking. Hazard, De Bruyne, they get the ball, they think about how we're going to get forward. Lukaku, Mertens, they're very. I'm not sure where the players are that will slow down the game and control it. They've got some excellent defenders, Vertonghen.
I mean, they're from top to bottom. They're world class. We don't have to name the names. We all know them. What I'm thinking here is they have. Go ahead.
I know. I was just going to say. So for me, it's between Belgium and England. This group.
For sure.
Look at Tunisia, I can't really see what they're gonna, or Panama, what they're gonna offer as a threat.
Panama are gonna get. Panama are gonna get absolutely just destroyed in this group. The fact they made it out of CONCACAF was a miracle. They needed 2 other teams to lose. They had an awesome goal. I tweeted a while back, my most successful tweet of all time. It had like 200 retweets. Was showing the Panama goal to people, and it was mayhem. It was bedlam. It was a cool moment for them. But there's no quality in this side. I hate to say that, especially as a guy that roots for an underdog team in Greece a lot of times. But Panama are going to be the whipping boys. It's going to be a bloodbath. Especially with Belgium and England, they're gonna get their dicks kicked in. It's gonna be ugly.
I think it will be. I think they're gonna try and give Tunisia a game. Tunisia have got Youssef Msakani out, who's the
one thing that England have to be careful of is Tunisia can steal a point from you guys, and if that happens,
I doubt it.
Yeah, fair.
I'm just being honest. I think without they've got Youssef Msakani out, who's their star attacking midfielder. I can't see it. If England slip up there, then I just can't see it happening.
I'll say this: you have to be careful. This is the true Englishman coming out of you right now. Tunisia haven't lost a game since March 2017.
And that's all well and good, but again, you have to consider the level of opposition that they're playing.
So the last game they played, they lost to Spain 1-0. The most recent game. 1-0.
Before that, they've played. I know they've played the likes of Portugal and Turkey in friendlies, and they drew those games.
Well, they were undefeated in competitive games for Africa qualifying as well. I'm just saying they're dangerous. You have to be careful because England are a team that can implode as well if they steal a point from you guys. And
England tend to implode against the big side.
So let's say this scenario.
A terrific record.
Let's play out the scenario. England lose to Belgium somehow, 1-0. Let's say it's a tough game. They're unlucky. England draw with Tunisia. Tunisia able to steal a point with that tough defense they have. And Tunisia and England both beat Panama. You guys are tied on points. It's not.
I appreciate that, but they were in a weak. Tunisia were in a weak group. They're in there with the Democratic Republic of Congo, who they're not a great side. They're building.
They're okay. I'm playing devil's advocate, trying to make it spicy in here. But
listen, of course,
you got to be careful. You definitely have to be careful.
Listen, there are no easy games, as the old adage goes in the World Cup. But if England do not beat Tunisia, I think Southgate's going to end up being under serious pressure immediately. I think.
Definitely. Well, let's talk about Southgate for a second, because I think the positivity that you have and that I have as well, that I didn't have for England in the past, comes from Southgate. I think I think the English FA have finally picked a good manager. He's young. He's bold. He's willing to shake it up. He's willing to take Joe Hart out of the squad. He's willing to not call up Jack Wilshere. He's willing to be bold. It seems seemingly being able to have this team be adaptable in games, as we talked about earlier. He seems like a gamer. He seems like a guy that you can really just get confident behind. And I actually feel that passion from him as well. And I think England nailed it with this appointment. I don't think Sammy Allardyce was the right guy for the job anyway. So it's almost like a blessing in disguise for you guys when that whole scandal happened. The one thing I will say is that Belgium not calling up Raja Nainggolan. I'm gonna whittle in this one bit here. I know we're talking about snubs after, but and if you look at the Euro 2016, Nainggolan was the spark for that team. He got a lot of games going. I think he had 3 games where he broke the deadlock by having this like amazing long shot piss rocket missile strike into the net that kind of got things going for Belgium. And him not being in the squad is tough because he was kind of the guy that got things going for Belgium in those games. And what I mean by that is Belgium, like France, as I alluded to earlier, really struggled to break teams down when teams pack it in and they revert to headers and long shots. And if it wasn't for Nainggolan hitting those, they could have definitely made an early exit from Euro 2016. So him not being in there, much like how I referenced Nani and Renato Sanchez in the Portuguese camp, it's going to be interesting how they break those deadlocks because it's a team that's super talented, wildly talented, but they've struggled to break teams down, especially in a cup setting. So it'll be interesting how that all plays out. I'm
not sure I agree with that. I think Belgium have got the players to unlock.
They've always had the players, but they had the players in 2016, which is what I was saying. It's
I think some of them have improved since then. I think I think they've really kicked on. And listen, like I said, you work on certain things. You know, you learn from mistakes and you improve as a. They scored a lot of goals in qualifying, and almost all the team, in fact, all the teams that faced them tried to be compact and defensive against them.
Yeah.
I just think
they always bash in goals. They're a team that if the opponent is lesser than them, they'll be able to score. But if they're playing against a team that is equal quality, they tend to struggle.
I think the problems could come in the latter stages. With what I'll say is that he's got terrible discipline. He's a smoker. He was warned consistently about being late in training. And it goes back to this whole thing about Benzema. If you've got a guy who's disruptive in the squad, it's going to cause an issue. But yeah, for me, it's England and Belgium. Either one, you know, between the two, whoever comes out on top in that game. Belgium have the better players. England are underrated in this tournament, in my opinion. It's going to be an interesting game. We'll see how that turns out.
I'd be licking my chops if I'm an Englishman. This is a top-heavy tournament, and I don't think the tournament's going to be this easy ever again with all the teams that are out now. So this is a time for England to shine, and hopefully they go far. It'll be fun.
It's also a tournament though where I think England are lacking some star quality, and it does make a difference on any given moment.
It does, but you can get it done. You can definitely get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I have faith in this team. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, Group H, the last one.
Sorry, say that again.
It's Group H. We got one more.
Okay.
And then we can cut this one off and do the snub separately if you want.
Okay.
You want to do that, or we can continue?
Yeah, I think we should do that. Do this one because we're going for an hour.
Yeah.
Let's do this one because I want to put everybody to sleep.
Okay.
Wait. Hey, listen. I wake up. I can see you nodding off.
No. I'm good. I have very small eyes. So people will think I'm sleeping if I'm on FaceTime. Believe me, the few times I've had a woman in my life and we're FaceTiming it, she's always accusing me of sleeping. I just have small eyes. So, anyways, Group H:
Poland, Senegal, Colombia, Japan.
This is an interesting one. I'm interested to see what you have in terms of takes on this, but I'll let you go first. I babbled for a while.
Okay, so for me, Poland, I think Glick and his potential absence, he's gonna. That's tough. That's huge. He's huge for them. Piszczek, Grosicki's big for them. Lewandowski, Milik, they've got quality throughout the side. Blaszczykowski, they've got quality players throughout the side. They're a team I really like. I think they can do very, very well. I'm not sure how far they can go, but on any given day, they can beat any given team. They're one of those sides, Poland. They've got a lot of quality. Senegal, on the other hand, don't have as much flair, but they do have Mane, of course, up front. But what they do have is quite...
they're well-rounded, man. They're well-rounded.
They're well-rounded, but they're also quite... physically capable. You know, Guerre is a ball winner in centre midfield. Kouyaté is a unit in centre midfield. We've spoken about Mane, superbly quick.
Diouf up top is good as well.
Yeah. Koulibaly as well.
Yeah, that center back pairing or that back line is going to be led by Mboji and Koulibaly.
So I think on their given day, they've got the right ingredients for being a dangerous cup side. Then you've got Colombia, who Ospina's superb for them. I know Arsenal fans might question that, but he's brilliant for them. And of course, James Rodriguez is their talisman. Cuadrado, they've got some good players.
I think Colombia have some holes, though, man. I don't see them being the team they were in 2014 that shocked the world.
I agree.
It's gonna be interesting what version of Colombia we see. And that's honestly the biggest question. They are the biggest wild card. I like Senegal a lot. I think with Mane this season that he's had, that's huge. And that you see a lot of teams that, despite them not being world class overall, if you have a player like Mane that can just kind of be the wind beneath their wings, they can go places. And they have the back line and the physicality to really strangle a game and kind of take over. So I like Senegal a lot. I think they're the most well-rounded other than Poland. Poland are interesting. I think Glick being potentially out is big. I like Milik and I like Lewandowski up top. I think those guys can definitely carry them out of the group stages. If their back line can keep things together, that's going to be the biggest question. And then Japan, I think on paper, they're kind of like the Croatia of Asia. They have a very, very talented team from the midfield up. I mean, you can go Yoshida, Okazaki, Kagawa, the list goes on and on of players that do well, that can, kind of like string some passes together. They're slick. They don't really get in behind, but they can move. They can pass and move the ball very, very well. I just think they're, in terms of backline and keeper situation, they're not quality at all. And I think, unfortunately, they're in an interesting group with very good attacking talent. So they're going to be the whipping boys. If they're in a different group, maybe a different story.
I think whichever group they were in, they would have struggled to get out of. I think they're terrible. I think they've been booed off in their last game in Japan before they left the country. They lost to a Ghana B team 2-0. They've got no cutting edge. They can't defend. I think they're really going to struggle.
Not being able to defend is big, and they don't really have. I forgot Keisuke Honda, but they don't really have a true number 9 either up top. So they're going to try and midfield their way out of this. I just used midfield as a verb. That's pretty cool.
For me, that group, if I had to predict, I'm going for Poland and Colombia, to be honest. But Senegal, it's an interesting group because Senegal are evenly matched with potentially anyone on their day. I just think they perhaps lack the guile. I think they're a team of units. They're going to rely a lot on Mane. I'm not so sure they're going to do this. I think it's going to be Poland and Colombia.
I want to disagree with you bad, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
I know you want to say Senegal, Pete.
Yeah, I think, honestly, Colombia's backline is better than I gave it credit for in the past. They don't have Yepes relying on them anymore, but they have a pretty decent duo. Mina from Barcelona is pretty big as well. He didn't really get a lot of playing time, but he's still quality, and that matters. Fuck, man. It really is a 3-horse race, and it depends on what kind of Poland we see. Lewandowski can really light things up. As I said earlier, I'm looking at it right now and trying to decide here. I like Senegal too much, though, man. I think they can. I don't know who's going to win the group, but that's how I'll end. I don't know who's going to win the group, but I see Senegal squeaking through.
Get off that fence and make your picks, dude. Stop doing this. Come on.
Fuck.
Man up, dude.
All right, fuck it. Colombia, Senegal. Fuck it. We're going for it. I'm a dreamer. I can see Poland somehow struggling against Koulibaly, and that back line just getting
Milik. Don't worry about Milik. Right, that's it. So I'm rooting for Poland. You're rooting for Senegal. Let's do this.
Other than their strike force, it's kind of a boring side, man. Blaszczykowski not what he used to be.
All right, we'll see.
Piszczek, you talk about Piszczek, you talk about all these guys, but I don't know, man. I mean, they're solid. They're solid. They have enough to get out. But I see James. I can see James taking over. I can see them losing the battle of physicality with Senegal.
We'll see. They might do that. They could do that. Senegal are capable of doing that. But
I think you're underrating Senegal. They're a good team, man. They're a good team.
They're a good team. I just think
they can get in behind, which is big. So
we'll see. We shall see.
We shall.
Listen, let's wrap this up with regards to the group stages. And in the next few days, we'll bring an episode 2 where we're going to talk about prostitution, drugs. This is serious stuff. Within the framework of, listen, we're talking about the framework of the World Cup, okay? Not Peach Tuesday night, okay? But prostitution, drugs, What else are we going to talk about? Snubs, star players that have been left out, and who you think is the biggest mistake of you know, which guy that's been left out could come back to haunt the coach. We'll talk about all that, and we're going to want your interest. Obviously, in a weird way, this is perhaps a good way of introducing the first episode, because people can listen, get to know us a little bit, and then for the next episode, we're going to want your feedback. We're going to read out some of your messages as well when you guys let us know your predictions.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Pano the Show, Pano the Show. I just changed it. I knew we were going to do this show, so I went from Peter Rabbit to this. So it's different now. And then at Chris Andre 6, follow us on Twitter, and we'll get it popping. We want to enjoy the World Cup and join us on our journey. Hopefully, we'll have some more guests on in the future as well. I have some connections, no big deal. You know, just laying my big old dick out there and saying that. And then, we'll go from there. If you made it this far, it's an hour long. Thanks for joining us on the show, and we'll get back to you guys in a jiffy. So, Chris, thanks, man. This is the first time I'm actually seeing your face. I've actually never seen your face in camera before. So
what I'll say is this, right? I used to be quite a good-looking dude, and then I became fat. So now I'm good looking for a fat boy. So, like, if you compare me to like Alec Baldwin or something, forget it, right? Forget it. He's like a really good-looking fat boy. But compared to other dudes with titties, I'm all right.
Ladies, I'm 23, just graduated college. Hit me up.
All right, man. Jeez, what a show-up. And he's an athlete. A 400-meter runner. So he's got
hopefully
stamina.
Not a washed-up athlete. I'm trying to find a part-time job so I can train as well. So, you know, follow my journey as well. Hopefully make it back to Greece. It was a decently high-level sprinter in my heyday. So I'll hopefully get back there, and we'll do that. Shameless plug, but here it is. Anyways, Chris, man, thank you. More to come. I'm excited. The Cup is 3 days away at this point, so it's pretty wild. But talk soon, mate.
Take care, mate. Bye.
Cheers, mate.